Justin Harris. I own Trapona Nutrition and MuscleMentor.net. We just got done training back at Strength Beyond Fitness in Kalamazoo with Randy Howard and Connor Young. See, where am I at right now? I'm in the middle of potentially a very long off season. Not really. I'm gaining really good. I'm 295 right now. That's the most I've ever weighed. I'm not a pretty 295, but I'm not an ugly 295. So I think I'm carrying more size than I ever did. At least as much size. In some areas, I think my legs are definitely bigger than they ever were before. My last show, Masters Nationals in July, did not go as planned. And I really don't want it to be my last hurrah, but I'm not sure what's in store for the future. I have too many kids, and the problem is the shows I want to do are all summer shows, things like the Masters Nationals or maybe the USAs. But with 4 kids all doing summer sports, it's almost impossible to do the amount of training you need to in the summer. So potentially I could do a fall show, but the fall sports, the Nationals are coming up here in a couple of weeks, and my second youngest soccer just finished. My 2 other girls are playing softball, and then another girl's playing basketball. So the fall is just as bad. Really, the only time I could do a show where I could really put 100% into the contest prep would be a late winter, very early spring show, and there really just aren't. I don't think there are any pro qualifiers then. So, that's better than half the pro shows. So, yeah, and so I'd like to finish on a high note. I'm still training hard with the possibility. I'm not young. I'm 37, but I took 6 years off, 9 years from competing. So I think as far as bodybuilding goes, I'm a young 37. I think I could easily put 6 or 7 more years before I start any kind of decline. So anyways, we did off-season back training. We started with just regular pull downs, and I have a real hard time activating my lats. My biceps and shoulders tend to want to take over for everything. Those are my naturally strong body parts. And so I've found over the years that using lat pull downs with the handle kind of angled out to the side actually doesn't let me hit my lats, and it ends up hitting my biceps more. And so what I try to do is find a perfectly straight bar. And so I find a straight bar when I grab wide with my hands tilted to that straight angle. It allows me to hit my lats and spread my scapula more and contract my scapula better. So that's what we did. I think we did 4 sets there. None of those, I don't do those heavy at all, because same reason. As soon as I start going heavy, my biceps and shoulders start taking over. So I go pretty light and really work on just contracting the lats. And then from there, I start going to my heavy stuff, where I really don't worry too much about form at all. That's when I have fun. Went over to T-bar rows, did 3 plates for a warm-up, 6 plates for a warm-up, and then went up to 9 plates for 8, I think. And I can't remember if that, I'm pretty sure that's not an all-time PR, but that might be a PR since I've done 9 plates a couple times, 5 or 6 reps, I think. I don't think I've had 8 yet, but I think that might be a PR since I came back to the sport. And again, they're not good, clean, squeezing reps, but 9 plates is decently heavy. And then from there, we went to one-arm rows and just warmed up real quick with the 150s. And then I jumped right to the 200s, which is the heaviest dumbbells we have. And I did sets of 15 there. And I did the 150s, I did a strict row with kind of a slow and almost try to pause for a second at the top. But the 200s, I do more what's called like a croc row from Matt Krozaleski or Janae Krozaleski, who it's more of a power row. And I really love the movement. It always gets my mid-back and lats sore. And so then from there, I generally don't have a problem growing my mid-back. And most of my favorite back movements tend to be thickness movements, deadlifts, rows, T-bar rows, one-arm rows. And so I try to always start and usually finish with a lat exercise. So we went to the iso ladder on the hammer strength and just did 3 sets there. It only went up to 2 plates a side. Again, for lat stuff, I really don't go very heavy. I'd like to go heavier with the form I use, but the form I use doesn't allow me to go very heavy. So we finished there and then went to traps. And this is usually where Randy leaves, because he has traps that affect his hearing naturally. And I have traps that won't grow no matter what I do. And so I've tried every type of movement, every form, every drive your elbows back, squeeze and hold at the top, go slow, go fast, go heavy, go light. always have problem making my traps grow. So right now I'm on a go heavy kick, and then after 6 months when that doesn't work, I'll go back to one of the other things that don't work. But right now I'm going pretty heavy on shrugs. So I did 405 for, I don't remember, somewhere around 10 to 15 reps. And then I did 495 for the same, and then 585 for 10 reps on barbell shrugs. And then I finished with one last kind of dumbbell shrug drop set. I did the 120s to failure, trying to go strict on those, and then drop down to like the 55s again to failure, trying to go strict. And that was it. So we did 4 back movements and then 1.5 trap movements. And that was it for back. And that's typically what my back workouts look like. The only thing we didn't do that I throw in a lot is probably every other workout I'll do either deadlifts or rack deadlifts. If I'm doing rack deadlifts, I typically only do one heavy rowing movement, and usually it's a barbell row, just because part of me is lazy and I like being able to do barbell rows, use the same weight for deadlifts, use the same barbell for shrugs, and get them all without having to move all over the gym. And so that's it.
Just a question I've never asked you.
Yeah.
What drove you into the sport originally when you started years back?
Okay.
What did you like about it?
Yeah, I can tell you. I remember being about like 7 years old, and that was back, 80s, and I don't remember if it was the Mr. Olympia or the Arnold, but every once in a while a show would be on TV back then. And I remember watching it on the couch at our first house I grew up in, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I think I was 7 years old, and I remember that night I couldn't sleep, and I was trying to draw I'd never seen anything like it. That was when Rambo First Blood Part 2 had first come out, Commando had first came out. It was around like 1986. Those came out in 85, I think. Commando might have been 86, and then I think Predator was 86 or 87. And so it was like around the time that was when I was first starting to see these guys. And most guys saw Arnold in the movie, I think. Me, it was an actual bodybuilding competition, were the first guys I remember seeing, and I was just fascinated by it. And so from then on, from age 7, I wanted to lift weights, and I think by age 9, I begged my parents enough to get me a weight bench. And so we put a weight bench in the basement. Of course, as most 9-year-olds, I never used it. I might go down and do 5 reps and a couple push-ups with a friend, but I probably used it, 5 times a year. No one's got any kind of discipline or anything at that age. But I was always interested. And I remember anytime we'd go on like a vacation or something, we'd go to the hotel, I would always be fascinated by the fitness room. And I remember going in and just like smelling the weights. Something about it just always, I don't know. I mean, most kids get into some kind of superhero type thing, comic books or comic book cartoons or something like that. For me, it was that was my superhero thing. And then I finally asked my parents for a gym membership. I was still 15, and so my mom had to drive me to the gym. And so as a 15-year-old, she would drive me to the gym at 5 in the morning. I wish I could have that same motivation. There's no way I could get up at 5 a.m. But yeah, as a 15-year-old, I go to the gym at 5 a.m., work out, and then walk to school. And I was hooked from then on. But for me, by that point, it was because I was small, and my dad was a good athlete in high school, and he captained the football team, and all the men in my family were really big, and I was a late bloomer kind of. And so I really hated that. I really wanted to be good at football, and I wasn't at the time because I was small. Then I started lifting, and then puberty hit me like a freight train, and I went from like 135 to 235 in like a year. And so I went from the little guy to captain of the football team and the big guy on the team. And then all through college, it was the same thing, lifting for football, lifting for strongman. And bodybuilding was my initial thing, but then it turned into like Bill Kazmaier and the world's strongest man guys, and Mark Philippi and all those guys. But Bill Kazmaier was what I was like, oh my God, that'd be awesome. I want to be like that. And so all through like high school and college, that's more how I trained. It was for football and stuff. And then I went to the combines in 2001. I had a few private tryouts with some arena teams. I was a good Division III football player. I was 2-time All-American. I think I led the nation in sacks my junior and senior year. And I set a bunch of school records and defensive end, but like a rush end, almost like an outside linebacker, kind of like a Lawrence Taylor, how he dropped down to a 3-point. So sometimes I'd rush from a 2-point, sometimes I'd rush from a 3-point. But I was for Division III, even I ran a 4.68. Which for Division III, that was very fast. I think I had the second fastest 40 on our team, and faster, than the wide receivers and running backs. But 4.68 is good speed for Division I. Anyways, I went to the combines. I did a 36.5 vertical, ran a good 40. I got 40 reps at the combine with 225. I did 43 reps with a tryout for the Grand Rapids Rampage. I did 41 reps. Can't remember who I tried out for them. And so anyways, they rate you from a different rating, and there's pro caliper. The two best that you have any chance of getting drafted or free agent sign on or anything would be pro-rated and pro caliper, or pro caliper and pro-rated. And I tested pro-rated for everything for my position except size, where pro-rated was, I think, 6'4", and they measured me at 5'10". And so, and my body weight was, I think I was 255 or 260. I was pretty chubby then. That was pre-bodybuilding supplements. But so at the combines, or maybe for the, they had me try fullback, because I played fullback a few times. I ended up scoring, I think, 6 touchdowns over the 2 years I played fullback for college. Just short yardage. They had me run in. I basically closed my eyes and run as fast as I could on short yardage. And what ended up happening was I had good speed and agility and strength for defensive end, but I was a foot shorter than everyone, and I had moderately decent speed and agility for fullback, and I had good size for it. But there's 10,000 other guys who played fullback their whole college career, and there's 10,000 other guys with similar stats at defensive end who were also 6'6". So nothing really came out of it. And then after that was my life for 4 years. I was so I didn't know what to do, and so started getting fat, and then I decided that bodybuilding came back to me again, and so I started trying to get lean, and then I never met a bodybuilder in real life, so I didn't know anything about competing or anything. And I ended up finally deciding to compete, and I won the 2004 Capital City Classic in Mr. Michigan, and that's 2004. It's 24. I was about to turn 25, and then the following year I did the Junior Nationals and got my ass kicked, and that's when I realized the difference between state level shows. And so I did the Mr. Michigan. I was like 213. Junior Nationals, I was like 229. Probably still should have been 213. And then I did the Junior USAs, and that's when I first I felt like a real bodybuilder. I ate like a bodybuilder year round. I was obsessed, and I did the Junior USAs at 245 and won the super heavies. That was 2006, and then 2007 I did the USAs, took 9th, and Flex Magazine did up-and-comers or people to look out for, and I was on that list. And then just as quick as just as quick as the obsession bit me at age 7, I don't even remember what happened. I think I read a book actually called Probability 1, which was the probability, a Drake equation that gives the probability of life on another planet in the Milky Way galaxy. And it takes really, really safe assumptions. Like there's 100,000 stars in the Milky Way galaxy, and you say if 10% of those stars have a planet, if 1 out of 1,000 of those planets, blah, 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 and it works out to 100% probability that there's life on another planet with this Drake equation. And I thought that was really interesting, and then I think I started reading a more in-depth physics book, and I couldn't understand the math. And so I realized that I wanted to understand it, so I started paying attention to math, and then I got obsessed with math. And then I went back to school and basically did an undergrad in math, and then applied to grad school for physics, and was in that program. Like I said, I switched gears. As Dave Tate always says, I don't know where 80% is. I know where 0% is really good, and I know where 100% is really good. But anywhere in between, I'm not really good at. And that's the same thing with me, because once I switched to school, I didn't work out for 6 years. Just as quick as, I don't know, as quick as it used to be. I couldn't miss a day at the gym. That was all I thought about. And just as quickly as that, I couldn't care about the gym, couldn't care about muscles. And then same thing, I got 2 years into my PhD program in physics at Western Michigan, and I was doing, my thesis advisor kind of patted me on the back and said I had good work. And he kind of said, if you'd have enough for a master's thesis already. And he was saying that encouraging, as though you're making good progress towards your, and I thought, master's, I could be done. And the thing is I knew I didn't want to do research. I didn't want to teach. And the only difference, it's hard to get a job with a physics degree, period. But in industry, a master's in physics or a PhD in physics really doesn't matter. Maybe for a PhD you could do quantitative analysis, be a quant, but that's like you got to go to new. Yeah. And so I left. So I applied for my master's that spring, about a month after he said that, and left. And now I work as an engineer. And the same thing. As soon as literally, it was the weirdest thing. The day I didn't have school anymore, and I woke up and I didn't have to go to school, and I thought I'd like to go lift. And by the end of that week, I was eating bodybuilding food, training again, and so. But that's the whole 0 to 60 story of it.
That's That's awesome. Now, you talked about Bill Kazmaier and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you ever compete in strongman at all?
No, I did 2 powerlifting meets. I did the 2007 and 2008 APF Michigan, and I won the 275-pound class and best lifter, and I totaled elite both times. And so I think I don't know, I have really thick wrists, thick joints, and strength comes more naturally to me than bodybuilding. I like I said, I'm 295 right now, and if I told people what I was eating, they would never in a million. I eat Dominic Driveline, I have him eating probably 1,500 to 2,000 calories a day more than I am right now, and he's 220, and I'm 295. And so size, strength always comes easy to me. The dieting down is very difficult for me, so I was probably better suited to it. And I could have got into powerlifting. The problem was that happened at the same time I started going to school, and so that's mostly why it fell off. I never did strongman though. I got short, fat fingers. In truth, I try to look at things. I'm not a competitive person in that if I'm playing checkers with my kids, I'll let them win. Or if I'm playing ping pong, I don't care if I win. But if I decide I want to be good at something, I have to win or be good at it. And so if I decided I wanted to be good at ping pong, I would practice 12 hours a day till I could beat everyone so I didn't have to worry about it. And looking at strongman, I'm not tall. And
a lot of those guys are, but you don't think it'd be
yeah.
to be tall because you have to
Yeah, but some of the stone type things or anything where you're lifting a stone to here as opposed to here is a big difference. And any of the grip things, big hands. So most of those guys are tall with really huge hands. And so, Zydrunas Savickas is about as short and stocky as you get for a good strongman, and even he's 3 or 4 inches taller than me. So, most of the guys now are, Brian Shaw and the Mountain, Thor, they're 6'9", 6'8". So yeah, so I'd like to do strongman. I've been doing some strongman training, just goofing around. Just instead of doing overhead presses, I'll do log presses, or because I don't have any real plans for competing, so I'm kind of enjoying training more. But I like powerlifting. I don't know that I could go back to it. I think the years off have affected my powerlifting ability more than my bodybuilding ability. I still don't have my core, my squat strength or bench strength back. I don't think. So.
Well, just since last time we filmed, go and tell us about your client just turned pro, Luke.
Oh yeah, Luke Sandoe. Yeah, so we started working together right before his show last year. He was like 3 weeks out, and he was a little too depleted, I think. And so we finished that out the best we could, but we had all off season together. And he's awesome. He's the ideal client. He's got, the size, shape, structure. He trains like an animal, and he's one of those guys who's curious about why I'm doing what I'm doing with the diet, but I can also trust to follow the diet. I'm not one of those guys who say, do this, don't ask questions. I want you to ask questions, and if you don't agree with something I'm doing, I'll give you my scientific reason for doing it, and if you still don't agree with it, I'm willing to compromise with you rather than have you just lie to me. And so, yeah, he's, the perfect client. You tell him to follow a diet, he does it. Most top guys do it they're used to the suffering and stuff, but yeah, he turned pro. I think he'll do well in his first pro shows. The thing is, he looked great on stage, but the thing is, he could have been even freakier. I did a Geared Up podcast maybe 3 weeks out of his show, and he had just sent me his 3-week out picks, and I knew he won right then. They were very impressive picks, and I mentioned it on the Geared Up. I said, I just saw his 3-week out picks, but the problem was in previous years, or he did his qualifier and won and looked insane. He was like 256. And he wasn't quite in winning a procard shape. He was peeled everywhere except glutes. And so the judges said, you're on, you just got to be peeled. And so it really got driven home to him that he had to be absolutely shredded. And so I think he could have been insane looking at about 250, 252, but just to be safe, we brought him all the way down to like 244, 246, I think. Yeah, just to make sure there was, yeah. And the thing is, he lost a little fullness in his legs because of it. But yeah, we had to be. So I think he was 230 something last year, so he put on 10 or 15 pounds this year, and I think he gave away a good 5 pounds there also. So if he has another good 10 or 15 pound off season, there's a chance he could be on stage 20 pounds heavier as a pro, and that's not blowing up and blowing out his gut or anything. That's 20 pounds with the same shape he has now, which I see him winning pro shows doing that. And he's an awesome guy. Like we were talking earlier, like the British bodybuilders just seem to have such a better. They're not arrogant or selfish, and they joke about themselves and joke about the sport, and just are much more lighthearted and fun about the whole thing. And he's got his podcast. What's the size game? Is that I can't. Yeah, and he's hilarious on it. All those guys are funny, and they get along too. They try to play it up like there's a rivalry between the 3 or 4 of those guys, but they're hanging out backstage and sharing food and hugging for pictures, after the show and stuff. And so it's cool to see because you don't really get that much in the U.S. A lot of times there's no one's friendly backstage, or sometimes there are, but a lot of times when it gets between the top guys, there's some animosity and stuff, and not just for the cameras, it really is there. But but over there, they're just like they have a blast with it. And we were talking I remember talking about like Flex Lewis. I remember in 2006, I can't remember what show it was now, him trying to hail a cab, and it was cracking me up. I mean, I'm sure he didn't know who I was at the time, but I just listened to his accent and him bitching about the cab and making jokes about it, and they're just funny guys over there. But
people got to realize too that to turn pro in Europe and other places.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, you have one chance. You got to win the overall. I mean, there's one guy that wins it, and so I mean, that's the thing, and so. Yeah, so he really earned it, and he deserves it. He's a good guy. He's got he's married, got a kid. Good, just something you don't see a lot. He's a good guy. So.
Well, good deal. Congratulations, bud.
Thank you.
Have a good off season. We'll catch up with you probably early spring.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.